Hey everyone, this is Holly from Hot Humble Pie. Welcome to my fall series. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you click that button. I found this super cute container at Ross on clearance for $2.49. I was so excited, but I thought it would be fun to make it a double-sided container because fall kind of ushers in the holiday season for Christmas. So I'm just starting off with taking some of the rubbing alcohol to clean off the surface here so that we can prep it for the next step. This is a free printable I found online of a watercolored pumpkin. I think that is so pretty. And for this particular DIY, I wanted it to be simple. The word signs are going out. They're not in a big way anymore because most of us probably have more than enough in our home. So I like to kind of keep it simple to keep balance in the home, and I thought that this was perfect. So my favorite method for printing up and transferring imagery for a while now has been on tissue paper. It's just gift tissue paper like you use for a present, and I tape it with masking tape onto some cardstock and run it through my printer. And I discovered another little tip. If you don't want to save your cardstock, I mean, you can untape it carefully and save your cardstock, but I'm not worried about it, is to leave the image on the cardstock because you're able to cut really close to the lines. In other words, tissue paper is really flimsy and it's hard to cut evenly. You can make mistakes. It was just a struggle. And when you need to cut up to the line like that pumpkin, I cut it out really close right up to the image. It is better to leave it on the cardstock to give you a nice foundation. So as you can see, I'm using some Mod Podge, and I taped a little bit of tape there and measured to make sure it was matching on the other side because I wanted it to be directly behind the Christmas trees. I knew that would drive me nuts if it was off to the side, and I just tap it on, and then here's what I do because I knew I wouldn't like the overhang of the, I don't know if that's the right word, but I wouldn't like the Mod Podge showing. So I'm taking a Kleenex and just wiping the Mod Podge off really carefully around the edge, and I want to get right up to the edge and do it really, really well. So I put my homemade chalk paint inside the container to kind of weight it down so it doesn't roll too much, and then I use a little bit more of the rubbing alcohol and some tissue and really, really clean off every last bit of the Mod Podge. Now here's a great find from Hobby Lobby. When I went on their clearance aisle that day, I picked up 3 knobs and a bunch of hardware and frames, and oh, it's a great deal, you guys. If you are lucky enough to catch their clearance aisle when it's stocked, there's some fantastic deals. I use some of the Gorilla Super Glue to put this on because that's a super strong glue. I love it, and I'm trying to get in the middle the best I can here. But I wanted to let you guys know I got really lucky with this. This is the next day, and as you can see, it dried with no wrinkles. It kind of had some, well, not just hardly any. There was like, it wasn't really wrinkles as much as it was like a soft buckling, but when it dried, it straightened itself out. So what I ended up doing, and unfortunately I didn't film it, was I just took some polyclear acrylic that I had in a can and painted it really carefully on the top because I just don't want any overspray or any lines from another product, but I really love the way this came out. Walmart's crafting aisle is beating the Dollar Tree on certain wood items. You can get this wood oval there for $1. So I'm just going to go about removing the sticker, and I do give this one coat, or rather a whitewash of chalk paint. If you want to know my recipe for my chalk paint, I made a video. I actually made 2, but the first video I created, the ingredient is kind of hard to find, almost impossible now in the USA, so I leave it up for the rest of the international community. But if you're in the USA, and I think also Canada, check out my second video. The link again is down below in my description box, and that will give you 3 wonderful non-toxic versions that you can use, wonderful alternatives that actually end up being cheaper than the original video. So Here I found this free printable, and you saw also that I used my silicone mold from Amazon. I love those silicone molds. I just squirt hot glue in, and then when the hot glue dries, I take it out, trim it up a little bit, and save it as a nice little garnish piece. So I printed this on regular computer paper this time, cut it out, and then I painted the silicone mold there, the little hot glue mold. I painted that with some nutmeg brown from Apple Barrel paint, glued it down, and now I'm just trimming it to fit the oval size. You can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to hit that with a little bit of white paint. I just thought that the nutmeg brown was such a pretty color. It looks either like rust or cinnamon. It's just perfect for the fall time. And when you hit it with white paint like this, it brings out all of the pretty designs of those molds. You can see that. And it also gives it, I think, a really pretty distressed look. Also, this imagery was applied with a glue stick, and I did have to lift it up a couple times to get it straight. And I also cut off the 2 leaves. There was extra leaves there to the left. So if you do this craft, I'm just pointing out the things that you know, if you want to recreate it exactly the way I did, you do have to remove the extra leaves. I just thought that was a little bit too much. And now I'm taking some raffia that I got on Amazon. I've also talked about this in previous videos. It's really strong, sturdy, nice raffia. It comes in a package of 3 in red and green. And it's a really pretty red too. It's like a burgundy wine red. It's really pretty. And I just twisted it so that I could thread on some wooden beads from Amazon, 100 for $4.50 because it was marked down 22%. It still might be marked down. The link is down below in my description box. It's a great deal right now. And I'm just hot gluing it on the back of this sign so that we can hang it up. And that's it. I love this. I think it's a beautiful fall decor piece. This sign was another great find at my Hobby Lobby clearance day. It's 69 cents, regularly $8.99. I think I picked up like 12 or 14 signs that day, because even though some are $1.99, then you find the ones that are 69 cents, and so it all evens out, and I think it evens out to actually be cheaper than the Dollar Tree. So I found this free printable online. I thought it was really gorgeous. It just reminds me of the French or English countryside, and it's got those warm colors that I knew would be perfect for fall, especially because we're only going to be using a section of this. I'm not using the whole imagery because the sign is long and narrow. So I did my tissue printing on cardstock trick where you tape gift tissue down on cardstock with masking tape and run it through your printers so it prints the image on the tissue paper. And it's a wonderful, easy, transparent way to get complex imagery like this, which, by the way, when I looked up what's in for Farmhouse 2022, nature scenes like this, that's going to be the new trend, and it will continue to grow. So I guess we're moving away from word signs and we're moving towards nature signs like that, which is really, really pretty. So I used some water to tear the edges there. I just painted it on and teared it so that it would be nice and shredded. So hopefully it will blend into my little canvas there a bit more. And I like to put my image down and hold it in place where I want it, and then put my glue, glue it down with a glue stick from the Dollar Tree, first on one half, and then I lift the other side up and on the other half. And I'm just showing you how amazing this is. I mean, there is no wrinkles. The glue stick is just a fantastic method. And it dries really quick too. So once it's dry, I'm just taking a really coarse nail file, using it like sandpaper to sand the edges off for a nice clean finish. And then I use a little bit of the white chalk paint, and we're just going to dry brush a little bit. I actually do several processes here. I dry brush over the, that was burnt umber from Apple Barrel paint that I originally distressed it with. And then I'm putting a little bit of white paint over that. And then I'm going to dry brush again with some nutmeg from Apple Barrel. So I wanted kind of different shadows and hues coming through, kind of more of a mottled look so that it would definitely blend in better. So even after this nutmeg color dries, I go in again right here and soften it with a little bit more white paint to get the finest or the final finished result. I've talked about this in previous videos, like hair. If you know, people look at you and think, oh, you have brown hair. There's actually 5 or 6 different colors going on in there to make up that one color that looks brown. And it's the same with paint. If you want it to have like a certain look, you got to add layers, and then you get different little shadows, things that you don't even necessarily recognize with the naked eye. You can see, your brain registers, and it just looks better. So I'm using some antiquing wax to distress the edges, and that's it. We're all done. This is probably going to be my last baby can formula DIY, just because my daughter's little boy stopped drinking the formula. He's on milk now, so I'm going to make the best of it here. But I went ahead and I removed the bottom of this. Now, I did this DIY back in May, and it came up so beautiful, and I mentioned in that video that I felt like doing 50 of these, so I definitely wanted to do one more. Even, I think I might do more. I just think these are absolutely gorgeous. I don't know why. I'm obsessed with these little pocket cans, and I like the one that's made out of cardboard here because obviously it's a lot easier to manipulate. And you know, I don't have any heavy machinery. I don't even think I have a rubber mallet at this time, so I really needed something that I could just work with simple tools, my hands, pliers, needle nose, that kind of thing. So once I shaped it into a pretty flat looking pocket, that's why they call it a pocket can, and you paint it, you can't even tell it's not a can, it's just beautiful, you'll see. But I'm just giving it one coat of my homemade white chalk paint. Here's an imagery that I found on Pinterest. She actually made a pocket can and used this imagery, and I thought it was one of the best ones I saw on Pinterest. So if that person happens to see this video, because I tried to find out who it was, but unfortunately it was shared from somebody else who shared it from someone else. It was impossible. But if you happen to see it, 1 in a million chances, you did an amazing job. So I printed this off, and it will be a free printable down below for you as well. Printed it up on the tissue paper again, using my glue stick again. These are still the best way if you don't have a Cricut, and even if you have a Cricut and you want to get more intricate imagery down on your craft, this is the best and easiest way to do it. Most discreet way to do it, unless you can paint really well. So I'm just taking and applying that, pressing out the wrinkles, and now I'm adding some of the antiquing wax. Any antiquing wax will work for this. I'm using the brand Folklore because it's the cheapest one, but they all work the same. And I'm just dry brushing a little bit on the front, and I also did it on the back. And now I'm using some leftover ribbon I got from Hobby Lobby on 50% off. I didn't have enough of it, so I'm going to cut it down the middle and make a longer strand and glue it on the top. Since this is a fall craft, I knew I wanted some raffia in there. I couldn't quite figure out how I wanted it, but I ended up cutting a bunch of strands that were loose, tying them at the top, and leaving a little I don't know if that's like a little mini fray at the top there, a spray, and just gluing a raffia bow on top of it. So you can see what I'm doing. I glued that little strands that I tied together. I glued that down first, and now I'm gluing a raffia bow on top of it. And the raffia bow, I just spun around and around on my fingers and tied it in the middle. It was that easy to do. And I poked holes using my cuticle clippers from the Dollar Tree, but you can use scissors. This is the nice thing about the cardboard. It's super easy to make the holes on the side, no problem. And again, when these things are decorated, you can't really tell what they are. I mean, you can cover them with all kinds of trimmings, and they're just gorgeous. Anyway, I decided that I'd like a few beads on either side of my raffia, so I'm adding a couple of the wooden beads. I think I put 4. Yeah, I did. I put 4 on either side. And of course, I'm opening my fall leaves that I got off Amazon and using some of the roses from the Dollar Tree and the greenery from the Dollar Tree. I love that greenery. Look at that. That's from the Dollar Tree. During the summer, that was really beautiful. And that's it. I think this is absolutely gorgeous autumn wall decor. I had fun today, and I hope you guys did too. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And as always, until the next video, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.